Hi, welcome to Write More Light. My name is Sarah. I'm with the Midwest Writing Center. And today we're talking about not crazy, the phenomenon of writers who swear by walking. So we're going for a walk. Um, I had intended to go to a park and be like, look at this beautiful resource we have. Um, that's like a little bit complicated when you are doing this for work and you need to be near work things. And I know you've seen a vehicle behind me, but vehicles are not necessarily available. Um, and that's also kind of the point. If walking is to be egalitarian, which I want to say straight out, of course, this phenomenon is specifically about walking. But I think, and we're going to find out, I did research, but I don't have things to hold in my hands. These are it's my grandma's gloves. Cute, right? I don't have notes with me, which I normally do, because the idea here is that I'm walking, not reading, not reciting. Um, Still kind of teaching, but anyway. Um, yeah, so um, walking is walking, right? And I don't want to pretend that that's not a privilege. I don't want to pretend that that's not ableist. But I do want to say, and this is where I was going, we're going to have the research available to us later, um, that there are some equivalents that are um, available to folks who maybe can't walk. I believe, and again, I'll follow up with the research, that it is partially about movement, physical body movement, and partially about scenery. So I'm also going to try not to look at the camera, um, because then I'm not really experiencing the full phenomenon, which likely I'm not, because this is a really odd sort of performance that I'm engaging in. Where I'm trying to prove the efficacy or discuss the efficacy or reasoning behind doing a thing with which I am not experienced. And that is, a lot of the reason that we do Write More Light. It's to discover things that people care about or are interested in that, I don't necessarily have experience with or have thought of before. That's the nature of things. We don't know what we don't know. Um, yeah. So with all of that disclaimer aside, I want to get into it. I'm walking. I'm walking very slowly because I do not have confidence in my own stability while holding a phone. And um, you know what? I don't want to be like proving that I know that I'm like athletic or something. This isn't about that. This isn't about that. What we see, this very, very common phenomenon among writers that here local, writers from all over the globe. Um, so many of them swear by walking as a creative act. And what I understand that there's reasoning behind it, and then separately there's science behind it. And the place where these two things meet is that the act of changing your environment, the act of changing your physicality, and the act of will have the effect of changing what's in your mind. And I think a little bit of that is like when they tell you to, when you're studying for a test, and you're studying for a test, and you're studying for a test, take the day before the test off from studying. I think a lot of it is about like you're stuck in a rut and you need to change. But I think a lot of it is also what's good for the body is good for the mind. I want to I want to reiterate that while I did the research, it's not in front of me, and I am not an expert. I am walking down a hill right now, and I'm a little nervous about it. It's a little wet. Um, we know, and for folks who don't know me, my first career venture was in social work, and we know that things like a dramatic change in physical environment is grounding. It has the effect of what grounding means, if you're not familiar with that term, is it stabilizes you and assists in a return to homeostasis, meaning if a body is not physically safe or doesn't feel that way, and our body has huge control over our mind, they are actually the same being, the same creature. There are a lot of really large fruits in the woods here. If a body isn't safe, and whatever that means, body is often wrong about these things because its goal is to keep us safe. We can sort of trick it into returning to a neutral point, to a zero. And so that's recommended for things, or with things like taking a shower or sticking your face in ice. I'm not joking. Or just going outside. So I think a lot of that is relevant to why it's helpful for writers. But I also imagine that, with a writer mind, not a social worker mind on these things, not a trauma-informed perspective, but an arts-informed perspective, is that even if you're in town, you can see behind me, I'm not in town. Really, no matter where you are, if you're somewhere very rural and remote, whatever your climate or environment is, if you're walking, your environment is actively changing. And we're looking around at things, as artists, and we're making observations and getting a little bit out of our minds. And in some ways, probably more into our minds. And that helps our thought processes. That's what I think we're thinking when we do it as artists. I can't help but get my brain out of the I'm training my body to chill on whatever it is that's troubling me. I can't get out of that mindset. But I think that's the idea when we think of it as artists, is that I'm making new observations. I'm freeing up space in my head so that when I come back, I can be in a new place on top of it, doing the art. The path I was going to take appears on path, does not appear to be a path. I want to say, when you go for walks, make sure you know what you're doing. Make sure you know where you are. Make sure you're safe and legal. Don't want you getting in any trouble, and in the name of an experiment. I have often said that most arts have some overlap and similarities, and the thing that I often say is that acting and writing are very similar because it's an act of radical empathy, so to speak. I'm getting into someone else's mind-body position. So don't let me interrupt your creative process, but do try to know that you're allowed to do what you're doing. I know a poet. Well, forgot her name, so I guess I don't know her that well. Bejan Matur, that's her name. Who says she only writes when she walks. And I'm certain I've asked what that means. Alternatively, maybe I was too shy to. And as I understand it, she goes for walks with her notebook, and something will strike her and she'll write it down and she'll keep going. She won't sit and write, as I understand it. We had this conversation 2018, maybe. So it's been a little while. But she says that that's just the only way she writes, and I don't really know how that works. I know I physically cannot, walk and talk, if you get me. But she's not unique in that. Ryan, the director at the Writing Center, gives a class on writing and walking, and I do not. He would be better for this particular video with me. And I know beyond walking and what we're saying, I almost fell, um, is this physical action and environment visually changing. Maybe physically changing. There are not a lot of hills in my office. Uh, um, is I'm getting repetitive. This is why I have a script. I have notes. Script would never work for me. It's good. It's good because change is good. When folks are blocked up, I always give two pieces of advice. And the first is journal until you cannot journal anymore. You're probably emotionally blocked up or possibly emotionally blocked up. Then the other piece of advice for folks who are blocked up is change your environment, change what you're thinking about, hit your head on trees, I guess. There's a clear path here and I just walked straight into a tree. Get your mind off it. And it sounds counterintuitive and is advice that we've heard, forever. But it's real that once we get our wheels spinning, they dig into the ground, right? We get stuck in that rut. Oh, beautiful metaphor. Because we just can't keep going until we slow down. I'm gonna keep going with this metaphor. Our intuition says to press the gas, and the gas just makes it spin, where we need to be gentle with it to get out. And sometimes, in order to remember that, you got to get out of the car. I like that metaphor. Not new or unique or special, but it worked really well. Oh, there's a cat. Yeah. And I also know a lot of writing instructors will assign people to walk and write. And what that usually looks like is go for a walk and then write. And a lot of people, especially people who are new to this idea, maybe like me, I'm gonna say hi to this cat. I know everywhere I go, there's a cat. We'll see a difference in their writing. I don't think I can say whether it's a good or bad difference, especially because I am not doing this experiment on people. But people do note a difference. I think, again, this is my own hypothesis. This cat's still here, very cute cat. Is that we have to leave our comfort zone to find our comfort zone. And that sounded real deep. We have to leave our comfort zone to find our comfort zone. And it's kind of like when you go on a trip and you grow up a lot and you're like, I was gone for a week. Now I'm a different person. But that's real and it happens. And it can be as simple as walking for your art. I would say, it would be useful, and this is something that would make a very boring video, for me to be making observations, either taking notes or just focusing on what I'm seeing, oh my God. Hello. What I'm seeing, what's around me. How many cats jump on my back? I don't know where she went. Or he. I don't need to gender you, baby. You're a cat. And seeing how that changes things. I know something we see when we do, like, I didn't mean to sit down in the middle of this, but what am I going to do? Leave the cat? This is not my cat. We have met before though. When people do gratitude cataloging, gratitude journaling, they notice more things to be grateful about every day. And we know, when a workshop that I teach, I don't know, once a year maybe, on the sensory, on how the sensory will flesh out, add a little depth to your writing, is that my students and myself have noticed I'm noticing my senses more. Something I've talked about in the seed journal video is a list of sensory observations, and they're going to come in handy. But those are sort of on hold, and this is an active practice. It's not something to put on hold. It's something to help me today with my writing that I'm doing today. Like perhaps you also are submitting to the Radical Hospitality Project today on one day before deadline. And I know, the goal is always to be writing all the time, and that's not always feasible, but it is possible. Say I get a 20-minute lunch break, 30-minute lunch break, and I can walk while I eat or walk to get my food. Maybe I can't write in that time, but maybe that is the David Collins advice, right? Doing one thing every day to further your writing. Does not mean writing every day. It means working every day in whatever way works for you, whatever that means to you. That can be walking, especially if we're doing it intentionally. And I will tell you, I have a really hard time, you probably noticed, focusing and being intentional and being present is really difficult for me. But I can say, I really like oak trees. I think they look gnarly, like arthritic fingers. And I just think that's a really cool look. So I can say, okay, what does an oak tree leaf look like? And that'll be the thing. I'll say, okay, I was going to say something that sounded like species, but I mean the color. I saw a red oak leaf today. I saw a brown oak leaf today. And once I start noticing oak leaves, which actually I think I just saw a quercus, I think that's what it's called. I think quercus is actually like the science word for oak. Which good on you, St. Ambrose Lit Mag. I'm trying to reach and not move, even though I'm supposed to be walking, right? This is not what I would think of as an oak leaf, but it is an oak leaf. So I start to notice different kinds of oak leaves, and that can be a writing exercise, because a lot of writing is noticing, so that we can create a universal experience, or we can appeal to a universal experience through our writing, which is helped so greatly by observation. I don't want to leave this cat. Y'all should see me with dogs. I wouldn't be able to talk to you at all if there were a dog here. I'd just be like, sorry, video's over. You can look at the sky. Yeah. So anything you want to do, anything you want to focus on while you walk is great. I would say, the first time, again, this is pretty much my first time, and it's, I have no idea how many minutes we're going. I've already sat down in the middle of it, which, I mean, be open to, right? If a cat crosses your path, like, pet the cat if the cat wants to be pet. I think it would be problematic to just not be open to whatever you experience on your walk. Yeah, I would say the first time you're doing it, be open to whatever happens, even if, say, you're narrating to I heard noises. Even if you're narrating while you walk, that's okay. I know there have been times in my life where I've pretended to be on a cooking show when I'm cooking. Like, why not? Maybe I probably wouldn't do this the first time. I think I would focus on what is walking. And like whatever happens while I'm walking, really try to keep a clear mind the first few times I do this. But after that, why not tell an imaginary talk show audience about the project you're working on? I mean, why not? Seems a little bit like we're spinning our wheels, but why not? This cat is really sweet. So I hope, let's see, when we are trying to be better artists, and we're not looking at that as like, I don't want to be when we're not looking at that as like a successful artist, whatever that means to you, we're looking at it as, I am an artist and this is art, and I want to be true to my art, whatever that means to me. Then we do things like this to benefit our art however it comes. It doesn't have to be focused. And I think we can, oh, I hope you guys can hear this purring. It's ridiculous. I hope that we can be open to that. You know, like maybe you wanted to, maybe you run into people like they cross your path because you're at a park and there's a path, or you're on a sidewalk and you know people walk on sidewalks. Or maybe there's a cat. We have to be open to these things, and we have to be open-minded. Like maybe I'm going for the walk because I heard that writers go for walks, and that's cool. But I think if we try too hard to say I'm walking because I'm a writer, then we're going to kind of ruin the effect of the walk. I think a lot of the walk is like clearing your mind, which maybe I should talk about sometime. I think that's sort of a misleading term. It's not so much clearing your mind as turning off the demands of your mind. And then of course, if we're saying like, I'm going for this walk to clear my mind so that I can, that's sort of, right? So make sure you are not putting too much pressure on the walk. I want to say I should try this. I think try to be genuine and intentional about it. Because one of their books, and no, I have a poor record, but oh, if any of this is recorded, no, I've been disconnected and reconnected. um, uh, writing art is good. That's the first thing. That's the most important thing. Art is good, and any way we can open ourselves up to sort of let go of the pressures of that is going to be good for us. I think weirdly that doing it without intention is the important thing here. What I've seen in the research, I'm gonna keep walking. I'm sorry, Kitty. I gotta get up. I'm being a bad example of what somebody who walks does by not walking. Yeah, I think setting aside intention is the most important part of doing this walk. It's any art, whether we want it to be or not, is about being human. I suppose unless it's not created by a human, that's a whole different conversation. What is art? Who can make it? And many of us artists are very in our heads all the time, and we forget that our bodies and our brains are one being. So walking, physical activity of any kind, is a really good way to connect the brain and the body, remind it that it is one object. And so I think that's the main reason it's effective. I think that's the main reason it's possible. Now I started out saying, you know, there are other ways that we can make this a more equitable experience. Not everyone has access to sidewalks or a safe place to walk. Not everyone can physically walk. And so that's why I said, you know, it's more about finding a way to have both physical movement and a change in environment. So driving can be the same thing. Can be. I think you have to be careful about it. I'm kind of guessing you don't want music. I don't know that. I don't. When I walk, normally I have music. It's maybe not to center me, but it's because I enjoy it and it's an opportunity to be alone with music. Where ordinarily when I'm listening to music, I am doing something else. Uh, so I don't know. I don't know how much of this observation can or should depend on what my ears are observing versus my eyes, my nose. Um, there's not a lot of entertainment focused on the nose, right? um, Probably all of it. Probably we want to give over all of our senses to intake whatever is around us. I don't remember the research I did. Sorry, friends. Um, so we'll skip ahead. It's okay that this is a short video. We'll have another one this week, even though today's Thursday, because I had some unexpected interruptions on Tuesday. The cat's back. Yeah, so upcoming events at the Midwest Writing Center. Radical Hospitality submissions are due tomorrow. That is up to 500 words of prose or 30 lines of poetry on the subject of radical hospitality or welcoming the neighbor, your interpretation of that topic. Those selected for publication will receive $100, and then further opportunities for more money for performance opportunities and audio recordings. The Foster Stall Chapbook series is accepting submissions until 11:59 p.m. on December 31st. Chapbook is a super short book, usually on a theme. We are not genre prescriptive, so poetry, prose, hybrid, whatever comes naturally to you is welcome, but it has to be, I think, under 60 pages, and usually chapbooks have a theme. Full information about both Radical Hospitality and the Foster Stall Chapbook series is on our website, mwcqc.org, and everywhere on our socials. Our first event, nope, rewind. It is the giving season. So I want to let you know, of course, your donation to the Midwest Writing Center is super appreciated, helps us pay artists to make art, to teach art. And a dollar spent locally stays local 4 times longer than a dollar spent anywhere else, non-locally. And we have a generous matching donation of $5,000, so every dollar donated goes twice as far. And then, of course, the last thing, our first workshop of 2024 will be January 18th. That's a Thursday, 6 p.m. Central Time. It's a one-off on Zoom. One-off means there's only one class. Sometimes we have series. It's with Logan Hoffman Smith, who's a new graduate of the Iowa Writers Workshop, and it's on vertical moments in fiction. So it's about adding depth to your story, to your characters, wherever you may need depth, because we are often so interested in horizontal storytelling. Logan is really, really cool, really, really smart, and really passionate about this work. So I think it's going to be a really wonderful workshop. And I'll be there taking it too. So you won't be alone in the naivete that I will be embodying in that class. So if it's unclear what today's prompt is for your free write, I'd like you to set 5 minutes on your timer and go for a walk. And then another 5 minutes to write whatever comes. As always, thanks for hanging out with me, and please write more light into your life.